So you have a children's library, you've convinced yourself, okay, some parents maybe have said, oh, our children need books, so this one maybe someone has actually sent you. But then you send out books and then a child sends you a letter saying, I enjoyed this so much. Or they start writing little notes in their books, and then their parents are like, oh, they have things they write in their notebooks and they want to be writers someday just because you started a children's library. I started out as a writer, and so but I don't know if I can define myself as a writer anymore. While I write, I think I want to be remembered as an editor and a word person. I feel like when you say a word person, it almost captures the writing, the editing, the publishing, the creation of word games, that my thing are words. Yeah, so I practice that through a little writing, a lot of editing. I like the process of helping another person birth their dream. That they sit down and they're lonely and they are alone and trying to create something out of nothing, and then they entrust someone else with it, and then this person says, you know what, you're on the right track, but we can clarify your voice and make it not sound better but clearer. And then creating word games as well for fun. We are too serious, and reading has to be for passing exams, and it has to be for something serious, but it can also be a preservation of our languages, and it can be fun. I think as a person, I'm fascinated by words. I was a reader as a child. When I read, even when up to now, when I read a book, I'm most likely to pause and go over what did this particular word mean. And you know, even in life, when I meet people and they say something, I'll say, did she mean it in that way? Or yeah, so I'm truly fascinated by words. And I can't say the beginning of it, but I've always read, I've always loved books. I also love movies almost in equal measure, which is strange because sometimes for writers or for book people, we are told, society, I guess, there's a thing that says, oh, we must advocate for books more than movies, because they're always competing in some way or other. But the way someone says something, the way they don't say something, also fascinates me. So even movies, I'll be watching for things like that, how the tone and all those things come out. After working in mainstream media for a while, I started interacting more with creative writing. I had been working in non-fiction newspapers, but I loved fiction. So I was going for writing workshops, I was meeting writers. And then there's that thing, you meet people and you're like, oh my God, you're like me. Yeah. But then I also started to travel for writing, and then people knew maybe one or two writers. And then of course the usual stereotypes of Idi Amin, of, I think the one positive person we had was Kansime, but that made me sad. It made me sad and scared because I was now in this industry, or at least trying to enter it. I'm like, so then when I write, people want to know me. That time, there was a a really thriving poetry recital thing happening with poets meeting, holding recitals, and they were doing really, really amazing work, but nobody was talking about them. So then I thought, let me start a blog. I'll call it Sooo Many Stories. And we started it like that, just born out of my fear that no one would ever read my work. But also to highlight, I think I remember saying, to highlight Ugandan literature and how rich it was. Because then when you would say Ugandan literature, people would talk about Okot Babitek, who is great, but a lot of good work was coming out at that time. And we all want to be seen, we all want to feel like we're contributing. So if I'm going to write and nobody sees it, that was problematic. So that's where Sooo Many Stories started. When it comes to editing and publishing, I'm working with someone who has already created something. One of the first things I tell them is that I think highly of them, because you can't edit someone who you despise just to cancel everything. But also to let them know that I see them, that I believe what they are doing, and that I trust their voice, and that whatever they are saying is important. I think writers need to know that, because you question yourself a lot. So it's a very collaborative thing. A lot of people, Ugandan authors, worry that my voice will come back when it's changed, or you're going to remove things. But even before I remove anything, I'll ask you that, did you intend to say this? Is this what you meant when you said this and this? This is what I'm reading. So when you're working as an editor, when I'm working as an editor, I work to be your best reader, your biggest fan, but your best reader. And so I ask things like, is this where you are going with this? And maybe you will start a story, and we were going to Nalia, clearly, but then you take me back and we are now at Makere, and I'll be like, but how is the Makere journey important? And the writer has space to say, but Makere is, like this, to me it means this much, we need to put it there. And then we'll find a way. But as your best reader, I'll say, no, people will have slept off at this point. When we work on children's books, it's the same thing. The illustrations. Recently, I was doing a children's book that's coming out. We should all be excited about it. And it has food, like it's a story, but the whole thing is about making a child appreciate our food. Now, for the first time, I realized that our food doesn't photograph well. Like Vinye were just... So we had to go back and forth with the illustrator. Maybe if we do this angle like this, like Carlo just looks... Yeah, but then you want it to be there because this is our book. So that's the collaboration. You're going back and forth with people and saying, can we change this angle? Can we change the color here? Can we do this like this? That's the process. It's a lot of emails, it's a lot of calls, it's a lot of, no, don't worry. I understand where you're going. There's something about creating something that is very lonely. That there's an idea in your head that nags you and nags you and nags you and nags you. And then you do it, and along the way you've convinced yourself that people might want it, but nobody really sent you. And then you create it, and then people like it. It's crazy. But people say that we actually needed this. It's actually like, oh, okay, so I'm useful to this world. I can create something that people need and value. So you have a children's library, you've convinced yourself, okay, some parents maybe have said, oh, our children need books, so this one maybe someone has actually sent you. But then you send out books and then a child sends you a letter saying, I enjoyed this so much. Or they start writing little notes in their books, and then their parents are like, oh, they have things they write in their notebooks and they want to be writers someday just because you started a children's library. That can't leave you the same. Or Otyo, that you create a thing where people call you and say, if you don't send me that box in 15 minutes, I will. And then they say certain words. You're like, but I'm the one who created it. Why are you so annoyed? And that they love it so much. And they say, oh, it has changed the way our families interact. It has changed our gatherings. It has changed how we gather and what we do for fun. I think for me, it's looking at something that you've created and knowing that you're useful, that you dreamt the right dream, because artistic dreams are often looked at as wrong dreams, and that you didn't make a mistake wanting for a book to exist, for a game to exist, for a library to exist. That's how it has transformed me, to know that I'm useful.
Nkette ku machako bikula Instagram ndabo bawaliyo content nange nchiberemu nesanga hashtag bingi ARTSY kwe kunyiga ko ndabe obaddala bya art naselengira benga platform egenda okuteka artist gwe ku form sibya kubuza mbuno gwe owasadi abnormal interviews babuza ofumbiddwa ddi ARTSY ngabo weleleza enoje interview dakika zibera kumizo kate muba interview ARTSY teka kola beba storytellers akona abava mu kisawe kyono art